join me. Let's do some art.
I found two sturdy wooden substrates at my thrift store. They both come with a hanger. They have some words on them, so I covered one in black gesso in preparation for my project. Now, before I get started, I want to show you the photo of this lovely vignette that Chris Ann sent in for our last month's challenge and that sadly I forgot to add. Please take a look and enjoy all the lovely details. All right, let's get started with my project, which is going to be some type of a mosaic. So I pulled out all kinds of things from my stash that I thought might work, like glass cabochons, metal beads. There are some marbles. I have some imitation Legos, more cabochons. Let's see, bits and pieces from my junk drawer. I also pulled out some key rings. I have some washers. I have curtain rings. And then I have these very cool wing nuts and some small metal bead caps. There's some sea glass. I have these really cool little broken glass bits. Then here are more opaque cabochons. Next, I have these tiny orange beads I hope to use. Then these fillers in red and green. And a cool gift from a friend, a broken car windshield. So first of all, I want to create a little border, a little edge around my substrate. And for that, I will use these Lego pieces. This is an imitation type. It was given to me by one of my neighbors, and I think it will work just fine. Like always, I use my E6000 to glue down all these more dimensional bits and pieces. Now, today's video is, of course, my contribution to the 4-core challenge for August. Later on, I will show you all the photos of your creations, and then at the end, I will give you the new challenge for September. So after the border was done, I add some screws. I have a little handful of identical screws, and the yellow piece there is just helping me to get the right shape. So I start my piece by adding some textured bits like the Legos, the screws, and here a piece from an old necklace. I close the end holes by adding a set of cufflinks. Now at this point, before I glued everything down, it may have been a good idea for me to draw out a design just to see how everything works together, but I didn't. I just went ahead and glued down different elements just the way I thought they would look good. So here I start with the wing nuts, and I just use a round piece of cardboard to give me again the right shape. As I never made a mosaic before, I thought to try my hand on a very simple abstract design with some extra metal pieces for boundaries and just for some extra interest. So I pulled out some key and curtain rings, some jewelry bits. Here I am cutting an earring to size. I have some bracelets, and I play around with them until I find the right placement. Next, I have these metal beads that have a nice texture to them, and I use them again for some outlines. I also will use some of those bead caps I showed you earlier. Now, not all the bits I had on my table will find their way into this project, but I always like to start with a nice variety visible right here on my desk because it gives me ideas, and later on, as you will see, like always, I will add a few new items as well. Now, I do a fair amount of editing in my videos to avoid anything that's boring or very repetitious. And when doing a mosaic, there are definitely many parts that are very repetitious. So this process part is pretty short, but I believe that all the important things are here. So I will turn you over to some music. Like always, you will find all the details in my captions, and I will be back with you in just a few minutes. Enjoy. So my piece cured for nearly 48 hours. It dried really well, it's very strong, but I did change the design after I was done with my process part, and this is the way it looks now. I of course want to explain to you why and what I changed. So I made a little collage where you can see the before and after. Let me get in a little more. So this is not as bright as the original, but I think you can see pretty well. So that's where I ended up after my process part, and I let it sit overnight. But when I thought about it, I looked at it, I just wasn't happy with it. I didn't like these curvy lines. They have some funny points, and they were not very smooth. They just didn't harmonize very well with the rest. I think if the mosaic would have been larger and I could have added more of these lines or had more room to make them more attractive maybe, but like this I just didn't like it. I also realized that when I added these extra dimensional bits, I didn't leave enough room around them to add some of the fillers or the mosaic bits. And when that happens, I think the shape just doesn't look all that attractive. The same for these single ones here, like this one. It's so close to the edge and that I cannot put anything around it, but then the shape kind of gets distorted. So I didn't like that either. This one here too, when I stood back, it looked like there was something missing. So some of these things just didn't come out the way I thought they would, and that's most likely because I have absolutely no experience with making mosaics, but I'm learning. So I went ahead the next morning and I took quite a large portion out, as you can see. Thankfully, the fillers and these little things hadn't cured completely, so I was able to take them up with one of my pellet knives. Now the metal components were stuck well because I used E6000 on those, but with the screwdriver I was able to pry them up as well. So this is my new version and I'm so much more happier with it. Yes, it's simple, it's just circles, but they just flow much better. They have a certain direction, a certain movement that is just circular, and to me it's better than being interrupted with these odd shapes. So anyway, let's see. I removed some of these extra things and moved them together over here. Now those are nicely textured and come on. All right. And that was of course one of the main thing of this challenge, texture and color. So I didn't want to lose them, but I moved them here. I changed the shapes completely. This one, as you see, started with kind of the beginning of the circle, so I just brought it around. I made this area a bit larger. Now when I took up these glass bits here, even though I really like them, I broke quite a few because those are not meant to be picked up again. But I had enough to fill in this little circle to fix a piece up here, and yes, add some more here to the corner. Now the only other element I added is another circle. I think it's a key ring I added here, and a little piece of chain right there. Otherwise I used these beads over here to make this circle. I used the round things to make this circle, and so on. Now here in between I added more of the broken windshield, and yes, I know it just turns out black, but I think it gave it a nice strong line and I like the way it looks. I also added another one of these little cabochons here to just fill this up. And I think that's the only changes I made, but there were big changes and I like it so much better. I feel it harmonizes more, and yeah, I'm very happy with the way it looks now. Now in this project, I used this Elmer's clear glue and it really worked. It's easy to work with, it's easy on the hands because it's water soluble, you can wash it off, and it would have been a great mess to do this with my E6000 or even with tacky glue. This was a lot easier and it really bonds well. It really encased the fillers here really securely, and yeah, I can definitely recommend it for this type of project. So that was it. So here is my mosaic and the way it looks now. And yes, I did not add any kind of waxes to the black things to bring out the texture even more, because I feel that the dark black is really needed to complement the colors. So you can see all the little textured pieces quite well. Now, as I said earlier, I've never done a mosaic before, and I definitely learned a few things. One thing is that if you have a black background, you have to use opaque things. Otherwise, the black will just swallow up the color of anything see-through. So that's why I wasn't able to use those orange beads I had. But I think this was a good substitute. I like that it's not just one yellow color, but three different ones. It just makes it look a bit more organic. So anyway, here it is. I had a lot of fun with it. It was nice to work on something completely different and completely out of my comfort zone. So I hope you enjoyed this, but now of course we want to have a look at all of your projects. All the photos that arrived in my email are right here in a wonderful lineup. So enjoy, and I will be back with you right after. So it's already September and time for a new challenge. thank you so much to all of you who worked along with the last one. I know it was a bit tricky, but all of you came through, as you could see from the lineup, with some very unique and awesome projects. And I really hope that you will all join in again in this month's challenge. Now, if you are new to these art challenges, please go below in my description box. Just follow the link to my intro video, and there you will find all the information you need. It's all very, very simple. All right, September. I again did not pick a theme, but we will have the focal point in common. Now, the focal point is usually the most interesting thing in your composition, in your creation, something that sticks out, something that is visually prominent, that absolutely demands your attention. Now again, you can work 2 or 3 dimensional. You can create a painting, a drawing, a collage, a relief, an assemblage, whatever you like. You can use whatever medium you prefer to work in. You can work with clay, with fibers, whatever you can think of. So the focal point will be the eye. And it could be human or animal eyes or anything so in between, as long as we can recognize it as an eye. It could be abstract or realistic, fantasy, whatever you prefer. So it could be a set of eyes, or it could be just one eye. I found these in a magazine, which are perfect for collage work. I found a cool animal one here too in a book. So all these could be incorporated in your project. Or maybe you have some 3-dimensional eyes that you could add or that you could embellish so they make a good focal point. This is a glass piece that very much looks like the center of an eye. I have a jewelry piece here. Marbles can work really well if you work with clay or paper mache. I have a googly eye. Now, of course, these are relatively small. So yes, they will need to be embellished and made a bit more prominent so they can work for a focal point. So those are just some ideas. Number 2 would be to add some script or some writing, some kind of words that don't have to mean anything and that don't have to be readable. So if you have some tissue paper like this, it has some nice script on it. You can absolutely make your own by using plain paper and just write on it or stamp on it. I do have some stamps here. This is a typewriter font. This is a handwritten font. Now, of course, you could add some words that mean something. It's completely up to you. Maybe you have a stencil that has some words on it, or maybe just a written word from a book, from a magazine, a newspaper, something that you can incorporate. And these elements are really just part of decorating your project. So that is part number 2. For part number 3, we will include a cluster or a design of diamonds, like I have here in this piece of craft paper. Now you can create it by using stencils like these 2. Maybe you have a stamp that has the diamond design, or you can make your own. Here I just drew out a grid. You can cut this. That way you can make any size you need. Just keep them together in a little cluster or in a design, and often they work really well if you want to add a shadow somewhere, or you want to just add some texture to some of your elements. So incorporate them somewhere in your project. So that is part number 3. And part number 4, last but not least, is to incorporate the ombre effect. That is, of course, when 2 or more colors blend together seamlessly. Like you see here on this craft paper, it goes from yellow to pink. You can absolutely make your own. I made a couple little samples here. This is done with distress inks, just the warm colors from red to yellow. This one was done with acrylic paint. Here I only used one color, but it goes from light to dark or dark to light. So you can use any color combination you like, make it fit to your project, and it doesn't have to embrace your whole project. It could just be an element of it. Just some parts should have that ombre effect. So these are the 4 elements for our September 4 core challenge, and like always you will find a list of these at the end of this video as well as below in my description box, and please do play along. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video and I get to see you really soon again. I will be back as soon as my next project is done. In the meantime, stay well, stay creative, have a wonderful week, and bye bye for now.